let's call the meeting to order. We have roll call.
Board Member Duffer.
Here.
Board Member Lambert.
Here.
Board Member Olson. Absent. Board Member Taylor.
Here.
Board Member Thomas.
Here.
Vice Chairman Scher.
Here.
Chairman Craig.
Here. First order of business is administration approval of the date change.
I can speak to that. If anyone has any questions, I can speak to that. Get on record. I think everyone, this is on. This is not on. This is not on. Okay. All right. I think everyone's aware of the change that I've asked for. I sent out an email earlier and I did not get any response. Kind of floated it around at our last meeting when we had no quorum, and I didn't hear any objection to that. But the scheduling of this meeting being on a Monday, it's kind of a tight fit between court, and court starts right around that time. And so sometimes we have people come in early because they don't have anywhere else to go, and they'll have a seat, and then court tries to come in and set up because they have a lot of systems to set up prior to court beginning, and they can't do it because we're here conducting a meeting. So it's the Judge Rainbolt has asked me about changing the time from Mondays, the first Monday to the first Wednesday. The next meeting in July is already moved because the meeting is on the 4th of July. So it's moved to a Wednesday anyway. So the only one of this calendar year that I would be changing is the one in October. And then next year it would be on the Wednesday, but there's no one before you, no one after you, so you won't be constrained by anything else going on. And that is the purpose behind it. And does anyone have any questions about that? Or
nope. I'll motion to approve the date change for regular called meeting.
I'll second. Okay, thank you.
Vote.
That's electronic.
I can't sign in and I recognize.
Okay, now.
Probably because your council as well, so
Sending Councilman Scher.
I'm not signed in and I recognize her.
Okay.
Everybody will be happier that way. So just call the vote.
Call the vote is Board Member Duffer.
yes.
Board Member Lambert.
Yes.
Board Member Taylor.
Yes.
Board Member Thomas.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Scher.
Yes.
Chairman Craig.
Yes. Okay, the next item is a discussion and recommendation of the City Council or possible recommendation about the Darien Airport Authority regarding commercial lease rates.
Good afternoon. What we're doing is we're trying to revise the tenant lease, or when they're used as a commercial business. We have two hangars. They're corporate hangars. They were designed as a tenant use for somebody with a King Air or jet or whatever. We have 4 of those. 2 of those are being used for commercial businesses, the avionics and the A&P, Magnolia Aviation. What we're trying to do is come in line with what all the other airports are doing and match with the FAA with making sure that it's a business entity, that we have a commercial lease instead of a tenant lease, and that we have a packet of which similar to what I have here, where it has their commercial insurance policy in there. The city of Durant would be considered we would also be part of additional insured in that policy. And one of the reasons we're doing that is, number one, to have the commercial insurance and the definition on the commercial lease. But number two, that's not used as a tenant hangar. It's not opening up, once a day or once a week or once a month. It's being used all day, every day. And so the maintenance requirements are a lot more stringent on that. We're going to have more cables we have to replace on that. It's because they're so big, we have to have a scissor lift to get up and change the cables, because we have to go up 24 feet in the air. It's not like a regular tenant hangar. So what we're requesting is to be able to come up with a commercial lease rate. We're not trying to come up with market rates in the city of Durant. I mean, they're $18 to $30 a foot rates. That's not what we're trying to do. Right now, that rate is approximately $2.43 a foot on a commercial hangar. When it's used as a business, we're suggesting it goes up to maybe $3.53 a foot. Would basically be $1,000 a month, not $730. And if you guys want to talk about rates, we can. But it's just our position that because of the added work that we're going to have, and the fact that we need to make sure we keep it up to standards with the cables and the weight on those doors and what we need to fix it, that we need to have a little bit more revenue off that. And that's basically where we're at.
These hangars have their own separate electric meters.
Yes, sir.
And what about water meters?
Not sure about the water. Do they pay their own water? I'm not sure if they pay their own water bill or not.
We do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
You do, but I mean, these are
Yeah, it's
different
No, same thing.
locations. Oh, same.
Yeah, I have a corporate hangar. over
He's
there.
in a corporate hangar, but he's not in a commercial business.
The only, I guess, the only problem I have with it is what is considered a commercial business? Because every hangar over there I know is in an LLC. So does that make it a business? Is my question.
I couldn't hear all that. You said every hangar?
I'm sorry. So I know that every hangar over there that you're talking about is in an LLC.
The corporate hangar.
Yeah, but they're not all, businesses per se, like what you're talking about. So you're talking about a brick and mortar business. And so how do we clarify, is there a difference, I guess is my question, between a brick and mortar business like the A&P shop and the avionics shop and the other two hangars that are over there that are also in an LLC but are not,
Well, just like for yours, for example, you're managing an aircraft. So you're a tenant. That's the way we look at it. It's your aircraft in the hangar, whether you're managing it for another owner, but you're flying the airplane. We treat that as a tenant hangar.
Mhm.
And I think the FAA would too. When you've got a brick and mortar type business that's operating to the public, people are flying into them and we've got some liability issues. You've got aircraft flying in, being worked on, and we get the calls on those. We don't get calls from your owner of your aircraft, but all these other people are calling us for this business, for that business. So it's obvious those are a business.
So we are separating it from
Yeah.
a brick. It's a brick and mortar business.
Correct.
That's what you're separating it as.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the maintenance costs for you on the?
I can tell you they're going to be
It's going to be in
Well, I can tell you that the scissor lift itself has doubled in price. From used to, we could get it for 8,000, and we can't even find one for 15 and 16,000 right now. But it's also all the other supplies we need, the cabling, the tools for that. We've already purchased all of it for probably 5 hangers, but those 2 hangers are using a lot more cables because of their size. You know, that door is so big, and there's
The increase is basically
it's maintenance based, yes.
So, what's the life maintenance of that if you put in cables? I mean, if you rebuild the door, what's the maintenance?
Well, here's the thing.
Life expectancy.
On a normal tenant where the hanger's going up periodically, probably 10 years, maybe less. On one that's being used as a commercial entity, we could be changing those cables every 3 to 4 years. And it depends on if they get hung up, if something happens. We're having to do quite a bit of work. They're breaking the pulleys on them. It's breaking, and it's not because of negligence, it's just use. We've got 24C, I believe, or B, one of them, that we have to do some welding just from the weight of the hanger door. So we're either gonna have to buy a welder too, or turn around and hire somebody with a welder, or get somebody from the city. So there's a lot of maintenance associated with those, and the cost of probably one set of cables and all the clevises and everything. I would say those things are probably going to be. We could easily spend $500 off one maintenance trip, not counting labor. So it's not like we're trying to make money. We're just feeling like we've got to have some way of offsetting our expenses some way.
Well, if you're running an avionics shop or an AP shop, either one, $1,000 a month seems pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, any business in the
Probably
city
more
of
than
Durant, minimum would be a minimum of $3,600 a month. Minimum. That's $12 a foot, and I don't know of anybody that's paying $12 a foot annual rate right now. Most of them are $18 to $30 a foot. So we're not even trying to compare with Durant. We're just trying to come up with what would be fair at the airport.
What is KSA's opinion on this? Because as far as I'm familiar with other airports, I don't know that there is a difference in if it's a corporate hangar versus, a business hangar. I've never been involved in that, so I'm not sure. Have you spoke with
Yes.
Michael Mitchell? And
This was derived because of dealing with Mr. Mitchell about, what would be normal protocol. And the airports do have a commercial lease versus a tenant lease. And at the same time we discussed it, we didn't want to make it so much more expensive. We wanted to be fair and equitable. And so those rates came from him. Those were something that he recommended, that we stay within those rates and not go outside of them, because we're not trying to make money off of it.
yeah, you're
Just
trying to
really-
offset cost.
Exactly.
What's the current lease rate now?
$730 a month.
731. And you're wanting to go up to how much?
When that's our recommendation is between $850 and $1,000 a month.
It's actually $770 is the current lease rate.
I think it's $730. Are you paying us too much?
I hope so.
I think it's
I love
$730
it
a month.
whenever that happens. I find yeah.
Basically, you just have to go up 1% on the
Correct. Yeah. If we go up to the $1,000 a month, basically you're talking about $1 a foot. So $3,600 a year divided by 12, it's not that much more money.
No, you're correct. Yeah, you're right.
730.
Mhm.
Okay.
What are the other things that you're wanting? It's not just money. I would say that every business out there, I would assume, probably has commercial liability insurance, even if it's not for business purposes. But what are some of the other things that you're wanting with the commercial lease?
Well, that's the other reason we're wanting to have the commercial lease, because it holds the business accountable to have their commercial policy. And we will place that policy with the lease, with the city of Durant being an additional insured to protect the city's, interest too. Right,
Yeah, if there's a fire, it's going to burn down the other three hangars.
right. And we're already starting to get insurance policies from the other businesses out there. Yeah. And that's a big issue with us, is worried about what if there is a fire that takes out somebody else's hangar. We need to make sure that business has insurance.
I'm concerned, I don't know what their businesses are. I don't know what their profit margins, but both of them, we have been real fortunate to have maintenance and
Sure.
like that
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
years. I don't know what the profit margin, my concern is if we raise the rent, or they can really help us.
I think to a point, I think that it does make a difference. To the point that he's saying, I don't. It doesn't make any difference. But if you raise the rent to $2,500 a month to two, it will make a difference.
Sure.
And I think what Dan is saying is that we don't want to lose other businesses coming to town. So it's kind of a catch-22, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're saying.
Grayson County, there's supposed to be an A and B over at Sherman Municipal, but from what I understand, you don't really find it. And my concern is if we raise the rest of these other airports too much, some of the other airports will say, hey, come on, we'll make you a special deal.
Are there ever requirements for other commercial businesses to move to Durant? Look, they ever ask you there's space available?
We have quite a few people on a waiting list. Most of them are own their aircraft. We do have businesses that want to come in, but we also have a duplicate A&P service already on the field. So there's not any issue with them so far, but we do have a lot of requests for hangars. Our price is very well in line with everybody else. In fact, for a tenant hangar, we're a lot cheaper than North Texas Regional. They got hangars right now that we're charging $230, charging $400 a month.
For the tenant hangars that would be converted to commercial?
Our $230 a month hangars are T hangars. I seriously doubt that would be you could, but
So
there's no restroom in there, no office space.
Are we specifically talking about 24A, B, C, and
Yes,
okay, not any other?
those have offices in there with restrooms and that kind of thing.
But there are other commercial businesses on the field in hangars. So are we talking about those businesses?
We're mainly
I
talking
mean, I
about.
actually only know one other, but
I really don't know of it.
Are they gonna come back so later?
what I'm getting at is, the helicopter people. I mean, it's a corporate hangar. I mean, what I'm talking about is air evac. That is a business. Are we talking about anything having to do with those hangars?
Yeah. Airback is paying market rate. They're paying, their whole lease is much more than what we're talking about with just the two people in those two businesses in the corporate hangar. And they actually have got their file, they've got their whole corporate insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that. Is there a price per square foot that you have for their lease? You have that with you on their hangar?
On their hangar?
Yeah.
Now theirs is a little bit different deal because they also have the terminal space. They're paying approximately $15 a foot.
So they're paying Durant market rate.
They're paying Durant market rate for their office, their hangar, and there's no office in the hangar.
Yeah.
But so they're paying a hangar rate of like 400 and something. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I can look it up if you want.
I was just curious.
But yeah, they're paying a pretty big market rate for their office space, and then they're paying a 400 plus on their hangar.
But right now we're talking about 24 ABC.
Right.
Okay.
And on their hangar, by the way, the reason they're only paying even the 400, they spent probably 10 or 20,000 on just the hangar. They spray foamed it and brought in and paid an electrician and put a whole roof heater system in it. A heater system. So they spent a lot of money. If I was to divide that up, they're probably paying $15, $20 a foot across the board.
But they just have a helicopter in the hangar.
Yes, sir.
No living quarters, anything.
No living quarters.
So you would look at them as probably a tenant
In the hangar,
in the hangar.
they're a tenant.
How long is this $730 rate been in effect?
Since KSA's assessment, I think it's been
It goes
a
up.
little over a year.
It goes up 10% a year.
Yeah.
That's for 5 years, I believe, and we're on like the third year that it's gone up. It used to be 606 or something, and it just kept going. But
And the other two will remain at the tenant rate. We're not talking about raising those. We're talking about just the two that are going to switch to commercial leases.
This is a question because I'm kind of new to the board. What would a voting for this mean next? Or we're just recommending, we wouldn't be approving this. You would just
Recommend it to city council.
be our recommendation one way or the other. Because they're that's all we're doing.
The city council, though, traditionally, a lot of times, whatever we recommend, they don't do. Now, I said, if it's on something board they want, then I guess.
that's a better way to.
I don't mind raising, but I would like to keep it a minimum 10%.
So my biggest thing with raising rents is because we've done this before, and we were told, yeah, we're going to refurbish hangars. And that's how the rate increase actually was approved by this board was, okay, yeah, we'll approve a rate increase if the city does, refurbish some of these hangars. And as far as I know, there hasn't been a single hangar that has been refurbished. So I'm cautious on that because that was our doing, was raising rates. Not to say that rates shouldn't be raised, but that's my only problem is the goalpost going to be moved after we.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by refurbish, but we've worked on a lot of hangars.
Yeah, no, I know you fixed hangar doors, but I mean, I thought that the idea was that we were going to have some of the older hangars were going to be refurbished, spray foamed. I mean, that's what my idea, whenever we voted on that, I mean, was that you'd have to, but I'm not under the assumption that the rates are too cheap. I mean, I think that we're probably getting close to market. And I think that you're probably right that, a business shouldn't be paying $730 a month and, be running out of it because like you said, I'm just cautious on it because what really happens,
Well, just to give you an idea, when you talk about refurbish, I can tell you one hangar door that we had to rework and just change the lower gearbox with the motor. We spent $8,000 just on that one, and that was the oldest hangar door we've got, the old Nolan's on number 11, building 4. So it's very costly to us to do any work and takes a lot out of our budget. We're keeping about 2,000 to 3,000 feet of cable on us, and crimping tools, the crimps, and all of the pulleys and everything like that. And as we go through, we've already walked through almost every hangar, and we're going through picking the worst that the cables are shredding and putting new cables on. So we've got an active, maintenance plan right now.
When would these rates be effective?
We're in the middle of redoing the leases right now and renewing all of them on the field. So the second, if you approved it and the city approves it, as soon as we issue the new leases, would be our plan.
I would make a motion for 20%. There you go.
Which what he's asking.
I think that's about what it is.
20% was raised at age 76.
876.
I'm not really concerned about the dollar, as long as it's not crazy. You know, it's 20%. I mean, 20%, it's going to raise 10% in a year anyway. So 20% doesn't do him any good anyways, because he's only going to get another 10% out of it. Because we're going to renew leases. They're going to go up 10%, without a doubt.
We're at
what-
8% inflation right
Yeah.
now.
So I'm not necessarily, stuck at 20%, because I think it probably should be more than that. But I don't want to run businesses off
Sure.
based off of, raising the rent,
Mhm.
So I don't know. What did you say your plan is? 20%? Is that?
Well, that's about the range we're talking about, 20 to 30% for the commercial units. We're talking about 2 units. Right, we're affecting 2 units. And I feel, really that I should give you a comparison on the business side of it. I could tell you, let's talk about avionics for a second. Nobody knows better than you guys how much you have to spend on avionics on your plane. That same Garmin equipment on a sailboat is 1/10 the cost. 1/10. So the same equipment you get an aircraft, you're going to spend $50,000, you get for $5,000 for a sailboat. So it's not like, and they have to spend more money on that equipment. They also charge more money for labor. So it's not like they're not making money. And I'm not trying to get into their pocketbook, but it's one of those things that because of how much work is being done, there's a lot of traffic, and we like that traffic. And don't get me wrong, we want their people to come here to get their aircraft worked on. But we've got to get to the point where the city's not bearing the cost of all of those maintenance costs that we're constantly in the middle of. Because we've got a lot more employees, at the airport. We're trying to utilize them for the maintenance, for that maintenance. And plus, we still trying to get more tools and equipment and scissor lifts and all that stuff. We've spent a lot of money on equipment trying to keep this maintenance up.
I do. My wife's up there. I get, I wanted to say this because I like to go on the record. I get very often comments, very positive comments on what you're doing. I'm getting comments like, what's changed?
Yeah.
Okay, so, what you're doing is being noticed outside of our community.
Thank you.
Very often I get a lot of comments. Yeah.
I think we're going to have to, if we're having real maintenance issues out there, and it's cost money, for that'll be a change in the leases, that if there's any maintenance that they have to take care of,
I haven't talked to James. I'm not necessarily opposed to that either. Have you had a thought about it? If we say they're responsible for all their repairs?
I think the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
they won't have to go up on the fence. They're going to be responsible for replacing all this stuff that you're talking about, and then they can figure out exactly how they're going to be built.
I think we had KSA do a hangar assessment for us. I think, again, even if we need to pay them a little additional money, I think that's the proper thing to do, is let them make a recommendation if we put the maintenance back on to the tenant.
Well, I know some businesses myself that they lease. Anything happen to the building, they fix it. That's part of the deal. I mean, if they want to keep their rent lower and pay for the maintenance, I think that should be an option. If they don't, then their rent's going to go up. I mean, it's simple as that.
And I can tell you too, in the lease agreement that we did with Airvac, any improvements to the hangar stays with the hangar.
Right.
So
exactly.
And that would be the same way, like you're talking, Mark, if there were any improvements made, When they
It's-
left, those improvements
They
stay and become the city's.
I mean, that's one way of going about not having to raise your rent. You're just going to know going in, and it needs to be in the contract that they're going to be responsible for the maintenance and any and all.
My hesitation.
It's a switch. The toggle switch, yellow. Or,
Okay, so my hesitation on putting the maintenance back on the actual tenant is my idea of upkeep on a building that doesn't belong to me may be completely different than what your idea is.
How would you enforce that? Tenants would be more likely to defer maintenance rather than.
Yeah.
I think you just have to specify what they're going to be responsible for. Routine maintenance is going to be their any damage or wear and tear on the equipment.
I think
they should have to come in there and pour it, blow the roof off.
I think we're going to get into a lot of things that we're going to have to work out, because if we allowed somebody to come in and put air conditioning in there, in some of those hangars, we're paying the electric bill on most of the hangars out there. We agree, and we've identified that as a problem because most of those hangars have 1 meter.
I asked if they had their own electric meter, and you said yes.
4 corporate ones have their own. But the other hangars, if we do other hangars, we would have to bear the expense of putting individual meters on each hangar, which I think we should do. That's my personal opinion.
I think you could,
Now,
I think you could put it in a written down where it's specified exactly what they're going to do. Like you're saying, if they're going to be responsible for replacing cable, get a contract.
I think what John is recommending is kind of a stopgap measure for us to recoup money for extra labor that we're having to put out because of the amount of usage that's going on there. They're running a business out of that. Okay?
yeah, there's no doubt about it.
They're running a business.
They're not gonna any of them, because I would, if I was in their shoes, I would not volunteer to pay for maintenance on the hangar. There's no doubt about it. You get $8,000 bills that was an $8,000 bill of something I did, or was the tenant prior to me for the past 20 years. Was it just wearing out? So I would never agree to that. And so probably marking up the rent. I mean, because $8,000 goes a long ways, in rent. And the only way that somebody would do that is if there was an option for a long-term lease. And I'm not sure that there's not, a calling for a long-term lease on a lot of these, like 5 years. But I think in the past, the city hasn't wanted to do anything like that.
The airport, as you guys know, was ran by absentee ownership for the most part for the last few years. Many years. Since we came in this administration, we want to change that to where the airport is run efficiently. It's improved, but at the same time, there's a cost of doing business for that. And this is a stopgap measure that he's recommending. And anything like you're talking about, Mark, I think we can look at that, but I think any improvements that are made and would have to be approved by the airport manager, or they could not be improved. And the same thing again, like with the electric meters. The only way fair to do that is each individual hangar is metered, and the tenant on that hangar pays the electric bill. Because right now we could have a tenant put an air conditioning unit or something in that runs all the time. Well, it's up to our cost, and we're not recouping that cost. I think when they were built, this is my opinion, when they were built, they should have been built with individual meters. They weren't. So the retrofit cost then would fall on us to do that. but I think that's something we should do. Yes, sir. Gotta be.
The only problem with the individual meters is that OG&E charges a set rate whether you use the electricity or not. So every month you're going to get a $45 a month bill, whether you use a drop of electricity. So I think in the past we talked about not doing that specifically because I don't think that the city bears a minimum rate, right? Like is the city charged a minimum? Not that you would ever reach the minimum because you have so much electricity use, but that was be my only contention with adding meters is because then the cost of a hanger goes up to each individual. I thought in the lease with each individual person, it actually states what you can and cannot have plugged in at times. Obviously, you're not going to go in everybody's hanger all the time, but
that is correct. They're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, and so that's really my
people put a camper in there and live in it.
really.
Yes.
These are the things that we're experiencing that we think the meter, the individual meter, is a better way to go.
Is there a way with OG&E? I don't know if there is, since it would it then be say I had a small hanger, would the electric bill be in my name or would it be in the city and the city passes the bill along to me?
Be in your name.
Yeah, that's really my only contention is because I know that they're just going to stick you for electric costs to it, whether you used anything or not. Do the new T hangers, are they on their own meters or separately?
Mm-hmm.
So the only ones that are on their own meters is the old avionics shop and then the corporate hangers.
And we do have the end,
Air evac.
base for Air Evac have their own.
They have their own.
And the one behind it.
Okay.
But we again had to incur the cost of an electrician to get that done. You have a motion on the floor.
I said I'm asking. Like I said,
You had one on the floor. You
I
made
didn't
one.
make a motion, but I'll make it.
I want to make a motion in support of this request.
You want to take it? Okay. You got a motion on the floor.
Probably want to put the percentage amount or whatever amount you're actually.
There was a percentage or a dollar amount.
What were you requesting?
Well, we were requesting up to $1,000 a month, but I mean that's something that you guys can still talk about if you want to change it. That's what we feel is probably a good rate of motion.
I'll second that.
Is there a way that you made a motion for that? Is there a way to change that to not to exceed $1,000 a month?
Could amend it to not to exceed $1,000.
Are we talking about a time period? Or
I don't really care about the time period. I just because you initially talked about $800 something, and then we jumped to 1,000. So that was really my only contention with that. Obviously, I think that you need to have some room that you can tweak it after the fact. You leave it out of here and you can tweak it however you think.
we want to take it higher than that.
Yeah,
I'd like to amend mine to not exceed $1,000.
that's I would like that.
Okay. So my motion is,
Is there a limit on this? Like, you can't go up in the next 6 months.
Is there a way? Is there a consumer price index that KSA has said that? Because I know at other airports that's how they go up on the rent is the consumer price index, but that's not how we've done it in the past with our hangars. That's why we're on the 10% a year for the next however many years, and then it's going to be the consumer price index. So can we do not to exceed $1,000 and then rate increases based on consumer price index? Would that be something that you guys would be?
I think that's legitimate. Fair.
I think you're mixing this particular, the way it's written in your agenda is commercial rates on these. You've got to act on this based on the agenda. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, if we want to come back later on with something else on a different agenda, you could possibly do that. But the way it is written in your agenda, commercial rates on this particular hangar situation that we have. Okay. So we've got to stay within that scope.
So just not to exceed $1,000, I think, and then we can worry about later on if it's, not market, and it should go up.
And I would remind us that this is just a recommendation from an advisory board. All the nitty gritty stuff is going to be left up to the airport authority to make that decision. Correct?
Are you going to negotiate or automatically go for that?
I would recommend we go to the 1,000. That will clear it up.
Well, we
So
started out
there's-
at $886 or whatever. So that's what I'm getting at is so now it's gone from a 20% increase to $1,000 increase. And so that,
John started with 1,000 KC and 800 came from
okay.
chairman.
So yours started,
He said 353 a square foot, $1,000.
okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I apologize.
We have a motion, correct?
Motion.
Motion, anybody else second? Lambert?
Thomas and then.
It was actually
Oh,
shared.
Oh.
sorry.
Second on that.
Okay. Okay.
Call the vote. Member Duffer,
Approved.
Member Lambert, Member Taylor,
Yes.
Member Thomas,
Vote to approve.
Vice Chairman Shear,
Yes.
Chairman Craig.
Agree with that.
Thank you. I get your hesitation because I get hesitation because I get why they have to go up, but it's I hate voting on things to make things more expensive.
That's all we have.
Yep, that's all.
So we're all looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. You're adjourned.